Today, fourth graders, you are going to be classifying quadrilaterals. I want you to try to use vocabulary and language today that you see on the screen. Things we've talked about so far in this unit: acute, right, obtuse, scalene, isosceles, equilateral, parallel, perpendicular, and any terms that you've heard during this unit. The first thing I want to do today is to have you play a game. I need you to look at the images on the screen and tell me why each of the images doesn't belong. So you're going to think of a reason why each of those images don't belong. Like A doesn't belong because blank. B doesn't belong because blank. Think of a reason for each of them. Pause the video because in a second you'll see what I think, and then you can see if we came up with anything different. I asked some of my friends and I thought of a few. These are the reasons why I think some of the pictures don't belong. Do any of my thoughts match your thoughts? Take a second, pause the video, and check it out. Next, I would like you to look at the shapes on this screen. What do all of these shapes have in common? Now, I'm looking for something mathematical. I don't really want to know that they're all people. I know they all have hands and they're all cartoons, but what mathematically do they have in common? You are right. They all have four sides. Now, you might have thought of something different, but that is the one thing they all have in common. They have four sides and they are called quadrilaterals. I would like it if you made this chart on your paper. We are going to talk about 6 different groups of shapes today. The first being quadrilaterals. Common attribute or characteristic of quadrilaterals is that they all have four sides. So in your chart, I want you to draw a bunch of little quadrilaterals, kind of like the ones I have shown. I drew as many different four-sided shapes as I could think of. If you are not ready to move on, then pause the video. Otherwise, what do you notice about the shapes on the screen? What do all of these shapes have in common? Be very specific. I hope you noticed that they all have four sides, meaning they are all quadrilaterals, but they also have two pairs of parallel sides, and all of their opposite sides are equal. You'll notice that parallelogram has been added to the chart because all of those shapes you just looked at were called parallelograms. Take the time to notice that parallelograms have four sides, just like quadrilaterals, but now they have more attributes. They have opposite sides equal and two pairs of parallel sides. That's very important. Make sure to add some drawings of shapes like this or like mine in your chart. Think back to all the parallelograms that we just drew. Now try to figure out which parallelograms have four equal sides. Draw as many parallelograms as you can think of that have four equal sides. Did any of your shapes look like this? These are called rhombuses, or rhombi is the plural name. Notice how they have four equal sides. Their opposite sides are equal, and they also have two pairs of parallel sides. Take time to write this in your chart, a rhombus, and write its characteristics, and maybe draw yourselves a few pictures. Before we hurry to the next shape, notice how some of the shapes are shared in each of the different names. Like I see the blue rhombus in quadrilaterals and parallelograms. I see the orange square in rhombuses, parallelograms, and quadrilaterals. Which ones do you notice are in all three spots or even just two of the spots? We are moving on to our next category of shapes. This is a challenge. Are you ready? Draw as many different quadrilaterals you can think of that have four right angles. Do they also have to have two pairs of parallel sides? Why or why not? You'll find out if you start to try to draw them. These are the two shapes I came up with. You might have come up with others, but hopefully they are just different sizes. I chose to make mine mostly the same size. Do you notice that they do have two parallel lines? Two pairs of parallel lines and four right angles, and their opposite sides are equal. Boys and girls, do you know the special name for these shapes? Come on, I hear it, I hear it. These are called rectangles. Now, some of you might be arguing with me right now because you see a square. Yes, there is a square, but they are called rectangles. Rectangles have the attributes that you just saw on the screen. Okay, so rectangles have the attributes of four sides, two pairs of parallel sides, opposite sides equal, and 90-degree angles. Look at all those attributes. Some of the rectangles I drew are in the picture. You draw some shapes that you know as rectangles. Even though some of you don't want to draw that square, it does have the attributes of a rectangle. Okay, one of the last challenges. I want you to try to draw as many different quadrilaterals you can think of that have four right angles and four equal sides. Some of you might only have one shape on your paper because it's a square. But I had to put that baseball diamond on there too because so many young children think that that's a rhombus or a diamond, but it truly is a square. Look, it has four right angles and four equal sides. So even if it's turned that way, we show that to kindergartners, it's still a square. I just threw you for a loop when I said the baseball diamond is a square. Well, its most specific name is a square. It's also a rhombus, technically. You saw it on one of our last screens when we talked about rhombuses or rhombi. But its most specific name is square because it has all of the square's attributes. Okay, we are getting so close to being done with our chart. Notice squares are so specific. I only could think of two pictures to draw. They have four sides, two pairs of parallel sides, four equal sides, 90-degree angles. Wow, you have to be pretty specific to be a square. Take time to fill out the chart before we move on to our last shape. Okay, last challenge of the day. I want you to try to draw a four-sided shape that has exactly one pair of parallel sides. We have not done any shapes today that have only one pair of parallel sides. There are technically three different images you could draw. Try to come up with at least one. Pause the video before you move on to see the answers. Did you come up with any of these images? I bet you came up with the bottom left one because so many people know that as a shape with one set of parallel lines. It's not as common to see the top one or the right one, but maybe you did think of them, and if you got all three of them, great job. Okay, do you know what they're called? They're called trapezoids. And they even use some of that triangle language we learned from the other day: isosceles, right, and scalene. Kind of cool. Trapezoids are in a league of their own. They're totally unique. Take time to fill out the last shape on our chart. Trapezoids have 4 sides and exactly 1 pair of parallel sides, but there are no other attributes for trapezoids. They might have some equal sides, they might not. They're trapezoids because of that 1 pair of parallel sides. You practiced drawing a lot of shapes today and filled out a chart with a lot of shape attributes. In our next lesson, we will tie together all of the lessons and review shapes using all of the terminology and the images that we've used in this unit thus far.